Hello everyone, welcome to chapter 6.3, Complex Fractions. Most of you remember adding and subtracting fractions and multiplying fractions and canceling and simplifying. This is an extension of that. So the first thing we need to understand is, what is a complex fraction? It is simply a division of two or more fractions. Okay, so if we look here, we see we have 2 over 3 divided by 4 over 9. Okay, so this, imagine this right here is the same thing as this division problem here. Division is the same thing as a fraction. So even though it looks much more complicated, it really isn't. 2 divided by 3, 2 over 3, or 2 divided by 3, divided by 4 over 9 is the same thing as 2 over 3 over 4 over 9. Okay? Of course, they get more complicated. So over here, we have 1 plus 1 over x. So we have addition over 2, or divided by 2. Then we have, finally, 4 over 9 divided by 6 minus 3 over y, okay? So we can have addition or subtraction in the denominator, which makes it a little bit more complicated. Ideally, we have the situation we have in the first compound fraction, where we just have two fractions with no addition or subtraction in the denominator, okay? So let's move on to how do we simplify. Multi-step process. So the first thing is simplify numerator and denominator separately. Okay, so if you can simplify, do it. Okay, so that's the first and most important step to make it a lot easier for yourself. Second step, this is critical. Ensure numerator and denominator are single fractions. Okay, so we have 3 examples here that I want you to look at, and I want you to tell me which of these 3 have single fractions in the denominator. Now, I know you might be thinking, okay, well, look, we have tons of denominators here, and these fractions have one big denominator for all of them, so which ones are you talking about? I'm talking about the top and bottom separately, okay? So if you look at the first example, we have q minus 5 over 8, and then we have this division here. Now, I want you to think of this as dividing. Don't think of it as like some complicated fraction, okay? You always want to think, okay, I have a top, I have a bottom. This next line is the division, okay? So think of it as separating it into 2 tops and 2 bottoms separately, okay? So we have a fraction on the top, yellow, divided by, or a fraction, divided by the green fraction on the bottom, okay? So let's clarify which of these has a single fraction. So we're going to look at the top and bottom separately. Here in the top, we designated this as yellow earlier, so let's stick to yellow. We see that the denominator, 8, is a single denominator. Okay, it's a single fraction because there's no addition or subtraction anywhere with the denominators. Okay, there's no adding 2, there's no adding 2 over 3, okay, which are unlike denominators. So that is a good thing, okay? So having that 8 by itself is a good thing. Now let's look at the other fraction in the bottom. Is this denominator, or is everything in the denominator, okay, in the bottom, a single fraction? Yes, it is all over 3. We have only one fraction to worry about. So this is an example of something that we want right here, okay? That's the case. Both the top is only over 8, the bottom is only over 3, so we're good to go. Let's look at the next one. In the bottom of the fraction, we see that everything is over 8, which is what we want, okay? Even though there's addition in the top, that's okay, because the denominator is a single fraction. There's no separate denominators, so that is good, okay? That passes the test. But look here in the top. Here we have, technically we would write this x over 1. See how we have 2 different denominators, okay? That's a bad thing, okay? That means we can't simplify it to a single fraction. So the second one does not qualify. So this is one we would need to simplify first before proceeding, okay? And that's kind of a hassle, but I just want you to be aware that you want it to look like this before you proceed, okay? We do not like it looking as it is in the top, okay? The third example is 6 plus 3 over x, okay? Already we're in trouble. We have a non-simplified single fraction. We have two numbers added together. And technically this denominator is over 1, which is a problem. So we have 1 and x as denominators in the top by itself. And over here, same thing. We have x over 4 plus 7 over 8. 4 is a denominator, 8 is a denominator. So we have a problem there as well. And it's not a single fraction, okay? Even though we can solve these two, it requires a little bit more work. And ideally, we want it to look like the first example, okay? Now, we already said that once we divide, it's the same thing as once it's a big fraction like this, it's the same thing as dividing. And as we know, if we divide, it's the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay, and I'm going to give you a quick example just to clarify. This should be review, but let's say we have 1/2 divided by 2 over 3. It's the same thing as 1/2 times 3 over 2. Okay, so that's important. And then lastly, you're going to simplify and reduce again if possible. Okay, I'm going to cut this video off right here just so we can have enough time to work on our examples. But next up, we're going to go over a few examples.